Thank you, Anthony. Next, I'm happy to introduce Anna Kijas. She is the Music and Dramatic Arts Librarian at the University of Connecticut in Storrs. She holds a Master of Library and Information Science from Simmons College and a Master of Arts in Music with a concentration in musicology from Tufts University and a Bachelor of Arts in Music, Literature, and Performance from Northeastern University. Recent publications include Maria Simonowska, 1789 to 1831, a bio-bibliography, and several entries for the revised editions of Grove Dictionary of American Music and Grove Dictionary of Music and Musicians. In 2011, Anna was awarded the Music Library Association's Walter Groboth Award in support of her research on pianist and composer Teresa Carreño, 1853 to 1917. Her research interests lie in examining the careers and lives of women musicians, mainly 18th through 19th centuries, with a focus on criticism and reception. She is currently working on several forthcoming publications and a digital project about Carreño. Welcome, Anna.
All right, so I'll get started. The title of my presentation is slightly different than what you may have seen on your program. It's creating an Alt-Bio-Bibliography using Omeka and Geo-Spatial tools. And so I'll just get started with my presentation. I have a little intro. In the introduction to her book, Planned Obsolescence, Publishing, Technology, and the Future of the Academy, Kathleen Fitzpatrick writes, "It is, quote, important for us to consider the work that the book is and isn't doing for us, the ways that it has remained vibrant and vital, and the ways that it has become undead, haunting us, or haunting the living from beyond the grave," unquote. What Fitzpatrick means by undead is that although the scholarly monograph may not be as viable a format as it once was, it is still required and largely upheld by numerous disciplines and academic institutions, primarily for promotion and tenure, especially if you're faculty. Myself, as a librarian and scholar who works at an institution where promotion, fortunately, does not require publishing in a specified format, print or digital, or preferred press, I can freely explore different modes of scholarly communication. As I began my research on Teresa Carreño several years ago, my original goal, which was largely influenced by traditional scholarship, was to publish a print biography or bio-bibliography. However, I soon realized that due to circumstances such as geographic dispersal of primary sources and the trail of documents left by Carreño after her 55-year-long career, documenting her career in key aspects of her life could easily subsume my life. So why should I spend years, perhaps decades, doing research and documenting her life only to publish a print book, which will have a limited audience and circulation? So instead, I decided to question what Fitzpatrick wrote in her book, asking, what is the book doing for my current research topic, or what isn't it doing? And I chose to experiment with digital modes of creating and transforming content or data. So while my goal still remains the same, to document Carreño's life through something resembling a bio-bibliography, my path has become a little more interesting. Rather than spending years writing a manuscript, waiting for it to be peer-reviewed, revised, copy-edited, and eventually published, I want to publish an online, open access, something called an Alt-Bio-Bibliography for now. Part of this process has included reviewing different platforms that are flexible enough for me, scholars, and the public to interact with, view the content, contribute to the original research, and potentially use it for new research. So in today's presentation, I'll briefly discuss some of the platforms and tools that I explored along the way, and their possible applications for others pursuing similar projects, whether they're for research or for exhibits created in a library or archive setting. I'll discuss in greater detail Omeka, which is the final platform that I chose to use for my project. And while I won't spend much time going into specific technical details, I will provide URLs as necessary so you can go back to the presentation and look at those resources on your own time. I also wanted to stress in this presentation that the process of exploring digital modes of publishing requires that you are willing to step out of your comfort zone, but it doesn't require that you do so alone. So I don't have to go and sit in a cubicle or in an office and work on my manuscript all by myself. I communicate and collaborate with my IT specialists, developers, programmers, system admins, as well as GIS experts and metadata librarians. So this means that the majority of digital editions or projects that are created are built by a team of people rather than a lone scholar. And these project partners also need to receive recognition for their contributions. So we're all collaborators and co-creators, whether they customized something like a CSS style sheet or transcribed a 19th century 19th century concert review. One of the first platforms that I reviewed was ViewShare, a free web-based application for creating and customizing visualizations such as maps, timelines, facets, and tag clouds, which allow users to interact with and explore cultural heritage collections. Unlike some platforms, ViewShare does not host your content, but rather ingests your data, so you have to upload something like a spreadsheet or another file format, and then you can edit the data or the content through their admin interface. So as I mentioned, you can import your data in the form of something like spreadsheets, as well as XML mods records, Dublin core data from the OAI PMH, and content DM. You'll see here an item view, which is once you've uploaded your data into ViewShare, it creates item records. And the data fields, as well as data types, are provided in the admin interface. Things like city and state, date, description, and so on. But these are all, you can edit these based on your needs. So they're not set in stone. So it is slightly customizable. You can also include images. So if you are an archive or a library that has an image collection, you can include these. You can include image URLs that point to where your image lives on a server, and those would appear as part of your data. In addition, you can augment your data through maps by including latitude and longitude information. So here's a map view of some of the locations where the performer that I'm studying has given concerts, and you'll see some of these locations listed below as well. And when you select one of the locations, you get a pop-up with the item record that you uploaded into ViewShare, so you can have your description and other fields as necessary. You can also augment your data through timelines. So this is just another way to visualize the content in ViewShare. And again, when you select one of the items on the timeline, you get the item record pop up so that your user can go in and read more about the specific event or topic that you're writing about. Another platform that I explored was WordPress, which is an open source platform originally used for blogging. It is now frequently used as a content management system and publishing platform. It requires hosting by either the individual, an institution, or third party, such as DreamHost, and allows infinite customization through the use of existing plugins, widgets, and themes. Unlike ViewShare, it does allow creation of new code. So if you are a programmer, or if you're working with a programmer, they can write code for you to customize it as much as you want, and to develop new functionality and tools. One of the WordPress plugins that I wanted to briefly mention, because it's being used in the creation of digital editions, is called CommentPress. And it's also known as CommentPress Core now. The main feature of this plugin is that it allows readers to provide commentary or annotations throughout a text, therefore encouraging open peer review. And so this is something that scholars are gravitating towards, because if you want to publish something like in an online or digital edition, most likely you still want to have some type of peer review process. And so using Comment Press is one way to do that. An example of a recent implementation of Comment Press can be found in Writing History in the Digital Age. One of my colleagues, Jack Doherty, who's an associate professor of educational studies at Trinity College, has created this open review volume with a co-editor, Kristen Nawrotsky from the Pädagogische Hochschule Heidelberg in Germany. And they made use of Comment Press, so you'll see that the chapter is here on the left, and then you have the sidebar with potential comments to be added. Once a comment is added, you'll see that the text that the comment refers to or discusses is highlighted when you click on the comment, and it opens to the right here. So you can, this is publicly available, so you can view this and read this online. As I mentioned earlier, the use of Comment Press encourages a transparent process. So if you want peer review, you can do so using something like Comment Press with WordPress. Both ViewShare and WordPress are intuitive and user-friendly for the most part. ViewShare is built primarily with LAMs, or librarians, archivists, and museum professionals in mind. Its interface is simple enough for anyone to use. If you have an interesting cultural heritage collection or a public history topic, you can go into ViewShare and start creating item records. On the other hand, WordPress is highly customizable. So again, as I mentioned, if you know how to code, or if you have a programmer you're working with and you want to create new functionalities, WordPress may be the way to go. So this brings me to Omeka. And Omeka is also an open source web publishing platform. It is a multimodal system used for content management, collections management, as well as archival digital collections. And I'm not going to read through this list, but while I talk, you can just kind of see different ways that you can potentially use Omeka. So again, while this was actually built for LAMs, scholars, public historians, and non-academics alike are now using it as a publishing platform. So again, Omeka is similar to ViewShare and WordPress in that it does not require you to be a programmer or IT specialist, and it allows you to focus on creating, presenting, and interpreting content. It does have flexible templating systems with existing plugins and themes like WordPress. And it has a growing community of users. So again, most open source software or platforms have a user community that contributes to the code and is there to answer any questions you may have while you're developing or creating content. So for my own research purposes, I found that Omeka has the potential to offer greater flexibility and accessibility than a print monograph. So this is the front page of my project that for now I'm calling Documenting Teresa Carreño. And it's a work in progress. I haven't yet made it public online for a couple of reasons, but what I envision is that I won't wait until this is a final product. My goal is to make it a collaborative work. So it will be available shortly under a Creative Commons license, and I will be reaching out to people to contribute to it. So some of the ways that Omeka allows greater flexibility for me than a print monograph would is that it will allow me to provide transcriptions from primary source documents that are relevant to Carreño's concerts or tours, as well as criticism and reception. So you'll see here, I can provide an annotation as I would in a bibliography with my sources. I can also provide subject headings or tags, which will appear in another slide. And transcriptions. So, oops, Let me just go back here. So I can transcribe from the primary source. Some of these are short, others are much longer, and include it directly with all of the other content on a page. I will also be able to collaborate with archives, libraries, scholars, students, other researchers by crowdsourcing information. So here's a transcription on the left that I have done of this primary source document. This is a page from Dwight's Journal of Music, and there was an excerpt here about one of Cuttinger's concerts. So I went ahead and transcribed the article. But potentially what my project will allow people to do is, if there are sources in other countries where I can't access them, so say there's something in New Zealand, I may be able to reach out to the library, the archive there, and ask for collaboration. And if I have an image of the actual primary source, either I myself can then go in and transcribe it, or someone else can request access to be a contributor and transcribe it and be part of the project. Additionally, and this is the thing that really excites me about Omeka, mainly because I'm not a programmer or developer, so I can't make these things on my own, is that I can create these geospatial and temporal visualizations that will allow me to plot or trace Connecticut's concert tours. And this is just the eastern seaboard here in the United States. But what I envision is her entire career started in the United States and was international for over 55 years. So there's a lot of data and the potential to visualize where she moved and how she traveled and her experiences along the way. So this is using Neatline, which is a plugin that you can use with Omeka. And I'll go back to the Neatline plugin in a few minutes. Going back to just generalizations about Omeka, there are several built-in features. So you see there is a simple search box that you can enter in a term, or even something like, if you're looking for anything related to her concerts in Boston, you can type in Boston and everything will come up where the word Boston exists. You can do advanced searching. And these are built-in features already part of Omeka, so I don't have to go and create a database or search features that will run through the database and find full text. You can search by keywords, you see here, specific fields, collections. If I create, for example, if I have a collection of concert programs from a specific time period in Boston, I can create mini collections within the larger work that people can also search through. You can also search by subjects and tabs. There is a browse feature, which is also a standard feature of Omeka. So all of the items that I create records for, you can browse as a list, or you can browse by tags. And you'll see the words that stand out or are larger have more item records attached to those than the ones that are smaller. And right now I only have content from 1862 to 1865, so it's just a small sample. There's also the built-in Dublin Core metadata elements set, which is a standard feature of Omeka. So this is great because we want to use standards, metadata standards, and also controlled vocabulary in some instances, whether it's referring to coverage, geographic coverage. You might want to use a geographic thesaurus. This is just a partial view of the Dublin Core fields. Here are some other ones. And this is from the admin interface, so the public doesn't see all of these other features here on the left. And there's also something called a coins plugin. So this automatically embeds citation metadata into your Omeka site. And you'll see the citation here on the bottom, right here. This is automatically generated because of this plugin. So I don't have to go through every single record and create citations that will appear for the public. They can, when they visit my site and they're referring to a specific event or item, they will automatically see the citation. So I think that's a nice feature that Omeka offers. So going back to Neatline, this is a plugin that was built to be used in Omeka. And in order for me to provide alternative ways of reading or interpreting Carreño's career, I chose to install the plugin so that I can use the map and the timeline tools. And I think that these types of visualizations will allow scholars and anyone who visits the site who's interested in Carreño to not only interact with the content, but also take some of the data if they want to use it for their research and visualize it in new ways, ask different questions, maybe things that I had never thought of, and contribute to the research. These are admin snapshots from Neatline. So in Neatline, you can actually directly plug in or pull in your item records that you create in Omeka, which you can see right here, Omeka records. And then you select if you want to have them appear as a list on the timeline or on the map. And then also you can create brand new records only in Neatline, so they would only exist in your exhibit if you have an exhibit of a map from a specific time frame to track a career, but they wouldn't necessarily exist in the Omeka exhibit. So as I mentioned earlier, my intention is to plot her concerts on a map and timeline. And so I can use modern base maps, something like a Google map, where I can enter in the latitude and longitude information and pinpoint exactly where she performed in a concert hall. I can also embed images or overlay images on top of the maps if I wish to. So you can actually see if there's an image of a concert hall like Irving Hall in New York City, for example, from 1865, I could have that primary source document overlaying the map so you can view it as well as see the description of the event. And when you click on one of the events in the timeline, you would get a pop-up which takes the item record information and gives you the description right there. So you can provide hyperlinks, images, programs, other documents directly in your Neatline exhibit. Another really cool feature is that Neatline allows you to take historical maps and layer them directly over modern maps. So there are a few maps that I would like to use that will basically depict the area where she traveled during that time frame. So this is a map, I think it's 1864, and this one is from the David Rumsey map collection. And this is where I still have a lot of work to do. Plotting the different concerts and tracking the tours and adding the information in the timeline. But I'm lucky in that we do have a map and geographic information center at UConn, so I've been working with the GIS experts there and also the map librarian, as well as going to sites such as David Rumsey's map collection or the Library of Congress American Memory Map Collection, because there are many digitized maps, historical maps that are available for download. So you can take them, put them into a software like ArcGIS in order to add coordinates to them and make them fit over the modern maps. So while the main content of my project, which I'm calling Alt-Bio-Bibliography for now, will consist of detailed annotations that contain information about Carreño's performances, such as performance venue, their dates, times of events, ticket prices, performers, repertoire. I hope that this type of information, as well as the interactive map and timeline tools, will allow scholars, students, and the public to interact with primary source materials. and ask new questions that they may not be able to, if it was just a print bibliography. I hope that it will allow librarians, archivists, museum curators, public historians, and others to contribute to the content and grow the project. And I think that additionally it will allow users to experience firsthand materials that are mostly found in archives and allow them to develop their own understanding of Carreño, her life, and music and legacy. And so I hope that this will finally encourage interaction, sharing, reuse of content, as well as further research about Carreño's career and life. And this is just, again, an item record from the exhibit that will show you, where's the mouse, here we go. Just shows you all the different fields that I have been using here. You'll see the original file, which you can actually click on and zoom in if you want to read it or transcribe it, and the tags here. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes.
I'm very, very impressed with this project, and I see that this probably is the future of a lot of the scholarly, publishing. It's already happening in a lot of campuses, but digital, humanities centers. And I'm wondering, you've learned a lot of this on your own, but do you see, just like the Jones Media Center teaches media skills, there will be need for, libraries to get involved in providing places where, we can teach these skills to students as well. If they're not learning in the classroom or if they need additional help, it's incumbent upon us to learn about these softwares as well, and ourselves need to get up to speed. And this is where we also need to collaborate with other departments on campus to get the skills and to collaborate with all these projects. So I think it's a phenomenal example of scholarship, digital scholarship.
Thank you. Yes?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept of crowdsourcing at least the research part of it, gathering your sources. Do you think at some point when you have a critical mass of information that you will write that book, or maybe it won't be a book, but you'll somehow synthesize all of this information?
Right now I have, I had submitted a proposal about a month or two ago, which was for a print book, but the caveat was that I would make this digital project available ASAP before the book is even published. So I'm waiting to hear back. But I have, as I mentioned, my colleague Jack Doherty, who created the digital edition with his German colleague Kristen Navratsky, writing History in the Digital Age. What they did was they created an edition of essays. So it wasn't looking at primary sources, it was basically just crowdsourcing essays from scholars about writing history in the digital age. And what they did was they put out a call, they had people write in with their ideas and their proposals, they started drafting, and then when they felt comfortable, they put the drafts up online, and eventually proposed the digital edition to University of Michigan, and they approved it as a final print book. So it lives as an open digital edition, but also will be a print book. And so I have that sort of in mind. What I think this will be, hopefully, and again, this can easily subsume my life, but I'm hoping that I can collaborate with others and not be the sole person to contribute to this, is that this will be almost like an archive or database on its own of anything related to her career, primarily textual documentation, whether it's concert programs or 19th century advertisements, reviews, and so on. So yes. Thank you.
Is there any way you could describe or quantify how much time or input from IT people it took just to install? I know Omeka is a sort of software thing, it's not a cloud-based web program. Install and get up to speed to the point where you're adding content.
So Omeka, the installation of Omeka is fairly quick. It's a matter of how you want to customize it, whether you want to add 5 plugins or 20 plugins. Do you want to tweak the code at all? When I mentioned like the CSS style sheets, going in with someone from IT and saying, okay, these are the things that I want you to change. But the installation itself is fairly quick. And then, you know, learning it, I just sort of jumped in. I had some colleagues who were talking about Omeka and saying how great it was and some of the features that, you know, might make it interesting for me to use. And so I just kind of jumped into it. I think that using it, it's fairly, as I said, user intuitive. If you're just going in through the admin interface, there's no need for you to know, really anything other than how to enter text into a field box, or how to upload a file. The backside of, you know, the system admin work, again, it could be intensive if you have customizations and plugins and so on, but it doesn't have to be. So,
how are you gonna get other researchers involved to contribute?
what I'm hoping is that once I, you know, have added enough content where I'm comfortable releasing it, I'm going to promote it, sort of publicize it, you know, in various modes, like online, on the actual website, sending out emails through listservs, putting it on Twitter, recruiting people that I know who may be interested to also kind of spread it by word of mouth. That's really what some of the other scholars have done, and they've been successful with that. I also have personal, you know, connections with archivists and librarians at these other institutions that I've already been discussing this with. So they haven't actually, most of them haven't seen the presentation that I've given to you here today, but I'm hoping to reach out to those people and asking whether either they would be willing to contribute and be part of the project as co-authors or co-editors, or even graduate students, because I think that there's a lot that they could learn too. Is it Sarah?
Where are you hosting your Omeka installation? Is it through UConn or?
Right now we're hosting it on a server at UConn. Yep. You can, as I mentioned earlier, you can host it if you're an individual scholar, you're independent, you don't have an institutional affiliation. You can either host it, you know, on your own system if you have Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, or you can go to a third-party hoster such as DreamHost or Bluehost. So there are a variety of ways. You can also host it directly through Omeka. On their website, if you go to omeka.org, it's run by George Mason University, the Center for History and New Media. What they offer is similar to like a WordPress.com installation, where they'll host sort of a box package of Omeka with a set number of plugins. And you know, if you have maintenance issues or you have questions, you just go directly through them.
That's Omeka.net, I think?
Omeka.net is the hosted service through George Mason. Ted?
Do you ever worry about these open source things going away? Not that, you know, regular
Right.
things are going away, like Adobe changing everything.
Sure.
You know, migration of this, or,
Yeah.
you know, we just deal with it when it happens, I guess.
Well, sustainability is always a concern. And so I have discussed this with some of the folks over at UConn in the archives, as well as the IT folks.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're currently, at the University of Connecticut, we have a team of people who are building a digital repository based on Fedora. And so this will be our trusted repository. And I'm hoping, and they're, you know, so far they seem fine with me putting my content in there, in the repository at some point. So the presentation as you see it today or in, you know, a couple of months may not be the same in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be an Omeka server anymore. It may be a different software altogether, but the data is still going to exist. So all the data that I've created, you know, I have it in CSV files. If it goes into the Fedora repository, it's going to get transformed, you know. I'm not a Fedora expert, so I can't go there, but you know, it'll get transformed and preserved, and so I can always revive that data. So I have been thinking about that and talking to people about it. Yeah. Anyone else? You'll be the first to know. I'll send it out on NEMLA listserv as soon as I have it up and running for, you know, for live consumption. Okay, thank you.